My name is Captain Ethan James. I'm 34 years old, and I've been serving as an infantry officer in the United States Marine Corps for nearly 12 years. Some people say the military makes you tough, but for me, it just gave a name to the resilience I had to build long before I ever wore a uniform. I grew up in a house where silence was loud. My parents didn't yell all the time, but when they did, it came like storms in the middle of summer. Unexpected, violent, and always leaving something broken. Most days, they just ignored each other, and eventually, ignored me too. I became furniture in the background of their disappointment. They were together out of habit, not love. The only person who ever truly made me feel seen was my grandmother, Grandma Ruth. She was the one who packed my lunches, made me warm oatmeal in the mornings, and sat beside me when I had nightmares. Her house was the only place that felt like home. It smelled like cinnamon and old books, and no matter how bad things got with my parents, I knew she'd be there. I still remember the way she smiled when I showed her my boot camp graduation photo. That pride in her eyes meant more to me than any medal I've ever earned. As the years passed, I rose through the ranks. I served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and then came the assignment that would take me to Eastern Europe for a full 2 years. Before I left, I visited my grandmother. Her back was hunched a little more, her hands a bit slower, but she was still sharp. Still her. She never once asked for help, but I knew her small pension wasn't enough. So I made the decision. I set up a direct deposit from my military salary. $2,000 every month, sent to an account that I opened with my mother's name attached. My grandmother didn't use online banking, and I figured this was the simplest way. I asked my parents to withdraw the money for her each month and hand it to her in cash. That's all, just one task. I knew what I was doing. I knew our family history. But this felt like a chance. Maybe a fragile one, but a chance nonetheless. I told myself that if they could just do this one thing for her, maybe we could start to rebuild something. Maybe this small act of trust could be the first brick in a better foundation. I wasn't naive. I was hopeful. I told myself I've faced fire and death overseas, but the hardest battlefield has always been home. And yet, I chose to believe. I chose to give them the benefit of the doubt. I remember sitting on the flight out, staring through the window, thinking to myself, if they love her even half as much as I do, they'll do the right thing. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. I hoped that by entrusting them with this, I could help heal something that had been broken for years. That at the very least, for her sake, they'd keep their promise. I hoped, and that hope would become the most expensive mistake of my life. 2 weeks before deployment, my mind was racing with logistics. Packing, documents, briefings, equipment checks, goodbyes. But there was one thing I kept circling back to, one task that felt more important than anything else. Taking care of Grandma Ruth. I knew I wouldn't be able to call often, maybe once or twice a month if the signal was good. I also knew she wasn't someone who would ever ask for help. That woman could be standing in a thunderstorm with no umbrella and still say she was just enjoying the breeze. So I made a decision that I believed was both responsible and right. I set aside 2/3 of my pay. Every month, $2,000 would be transferred to her. The easiest way to manage it was to open a joint bank account, one with my name and my mother's. I chose her not because we were particularly close, but because she lived near Grandma, and I thought she'd at least be physically present if something came up. Grandma didn't have a smartphone. She didn't know how to check balances or transfer money online. She hated all that stuff. So I figured this would be simple. Mom would withdraw the cash each month and hand it directly to her. I told myself that this was a practical solution, that it made sense. But the truth was, I was also hoping for something deeper. Some tiny sliver of reconciliation, some sign that my parents could show up for someone besides themselves. Maybe, if they could just do this one thing, it would say something about who they could still be. There was a moment, standing in the bank, signing the forms, when I paused. The woman behind the desk asked if I wanted to be the sole owner or add someone else. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the paper. And then I wrote my mother's name. Not because I didn't know what might happen, but because I wanted to believe it wouldn't. I emailed the details to both of them, explained the setup, and left a sticky note for Grandma with the amount and the account location. I told her not to worry about anything, that everything was taken care of. She smiled at me with that familiar mix of pride and concern, the same look she'd given me when I first shipped out to boot camp. In those final days before leaving, I felt oddly peaceful. For once, it felt like I was doing more than just surviving. I was giving something back. Not just to Grandma, but maybe even to my parents too. A little trust, a little responsibility, a little chance. This wasn't just about money. It was about the kind of man I wanted to be. The kind of son, the kind of grandson. I was putting something good out into the world, and I believed that would mean something. As my flight lifted off the tarmac and the lights of home disappeared below, I remember thinking, maybe this is how families heal. Not with grand gestures, but with small acts of trust. Maybe, just maybe, this would be enough. And for a while, I let myself believe that. After nearly 2 years overseas, I finally had a few quiet days back on base before flying home. The mission was over, and all I wanted was to hear a familiar voice. So I called Grandma. Her voice on the other end of the line hit me like warmth on a winter morning. She sounded older, sure, but still sharp. Still her. We talked about everything and nothing. The weather, a neighbor who'd passed away, her garden that wasn't doing too well this year. I told her I'd be home soon and that I'd take her out to her favorite diner. She laughed and said she hoped they still served those soggy waffles she loved. For a moment, everything felt just like it used to be. Then she paused, just for a second, and asked me something that didn't make sense. She said, "Honey, are you doing okay with money? If you ever need a little help, I've been putting some aside. I thought maybe now that you're back, I could send you a little something." At first, I didn't say anything. I thought I misheard her. I asked her what she meant, and she repeated it calm, generous, like it was the most normal thing in the world. My chest tightened. I told her she didn't need to worry about me, that I'd been sending money for her every month, $2,000. She went quiet, completely quiet. Then she said, "You've been sending money to me?" I told her yes, every single month. It's been almost 2 years. She let out a small, confused laugh. Then she said the words that would stay with me long after the call ended. "Sweetheart, I haven't seen a single dollar. Not one." I froze. My mouth went dry. I tried to stay calm, to convince myself there had to be a misunderstanding. Maybe she forgot. Maybe the money got delayed. Something, anything. But deep down, I knew better. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. The moment I hung up with Grandma, I called my mother. She didn't answer. I waited an hour. Called again. Straight to voicemail. I sent a short text, asking if she'd given the money to Grandma like we agreed. 10 minutes later, she replied with a vague message about being busy and how Grandma was getting forgetful these days. I didn't respond. I logged into the joint bank account. It was still active, still receiving my automatic deposits. I pulled up the transaction history. Every month, like clockwork, $2,000 came in. And every month, a withdrawal followed. Same day, same amount. Then I looked at the transaction codes. Each one was marked with the same identifier. The withdrawals weren't random. They weren't done by a bank teller or ATM. They were all from one location. The same location, my parents' town. I dug deeper and matched the withdrawal method. Each transaction was made using the debit card linked to the account. The card issued to my mother, not Grandma. She never even had access to the card. That's when the cold settled in. The kind that doesn't come with wind or snow. The kind that starts in your chest and spreads slowly until you can't feel your hands. It wasn't some stolen check. It wasn't a forged signature. It was legal. Every dollar taken was taken through authority I had given them. I had opened that door. I wasn't scammed. I was betrayed. And somehow, that hurt more. I didn't confront them right away. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. I wanted to be sure, not just about what they did, but about how I would handle it. Rage wasn't going to get me anywhere. I needed clarity, control. Christmas was coming up, and I knew they'd host something at the house. That had always been their thing, throwing just enough of a holiday to look like a normal family. So I decided that would be the day. The day I stopped pretending, the day I held them accountable. I printed out every monthly statement, highlighted every withdrawal. I stacked the papers neatly into a folder and placed it in my duffel. Then I charged an old GoPro and slipped it into a coat button, just in case things got ugly. I didn't want drama. I didn't want a scene. But I wasn't walking in blind. I invited Grandma, of course. Told her I'd pick her up myself. I also asked my girlfriend to come, even though it would be her first time meeting my parents. I needed someone beside me who understood the stakes, someone who knew how much this betrayal had cost. As the day approached, I felt something shift in me. Not fire, not panic, just a cold, measured stillness. The kind you feel right before a storm breaks. I wasn't after revenge. I wasn't even looking for apologies. I just wanted truth. Out in the open. No more shadows. Let them lie, if they dared. I'd be ready. The living room sparkled with Christmas lights, soft jazz humming in the background, and the scent of cinnamon candles in the air. My father was beaming, glass of bourbon in hand, leading guests out to the driveway like he was showing off a trophy. That's when I saw it, a brand new Porsche. Sleek, silver, impossibly clean. My mother laughed as she tossed him the keys, saying something about how hard work pays off. Guests clapped. Grandma just looked confused. I stepped outside, stood beside the car, ran my hand along the hood. Then I turned to them and asked, flat as a line of gunfire, "This Porsche, it goes for what, 96 grand?" My dad chuckled, said something vague about dealer discounts. My mom smiled, said they'd been saving for years. I nodded, doing the math in my head. 2 years of $2,000 a month, $48,000 a year. 96 total. The number sat there between us like a landmine. So I said it. Interesting. That's exactly what I sent home. Every single month. For Grandma. The room went quiet, except for a few nervous laughs from people who didn't understand yet. My mother's face changed first. She stiffened, but her voice came sharp. "Don't be ridiculous. That money's ours. We earned it." I didn't blink. I reached into my coat, pulled out the folder, and laid it gently on the table. Bank statements. 12 pages, every transaction, every withdrawal, all signed off under her name. The guests stopped talking. My girlfriend stood beside me, silent. Grandma looked down at the papers, then at my mother. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. That was the moment. Not when they took the money. Not when I found out. But when they chose to lie anyway, and I gave them no place left to hide. I never spoke to my parents again after that night. There were no follow-up calls, no apologies, no explanations. Just silence. And honestly, that silence felt cleaner than any words they could have offered. I didn't need closure. I needed peace. 2 months later, I packed up what little I had and moved to a quiet town outside Asheville, North Carolina. A place with mountains in the distance, pine trees lining the road, and a porch that caught the sun just right every morning. My girlfriend and I bought a modest house. Nothing flashy, just warm, solid. Real. Grandma came to live with us not long after. At first, she was hesitant, said she didn't want to be a burden, but I told her she was the reason I made it home in one piece, that she had carried me through more battles than the Marines ever did. She cried a little, then unpacked her things. The first box she opened was filled with yarn. Every afternoon now, she sits on the porch in her rocking chair, knitting scarves no one asked for and humming songs from the 40s. My girlfriend brings her sweet tea. I bring her mail. It's simple, but it feels like everything I ever wanted. I sold my motorcycle to cover the rest of what I owed her. She didn't want me to, but I needed to. Over 2 years, I'd saved every extra dollar I could. I handed her a check one morning, The exact amount that had been taken from her. She tried to give it back. I wouldn't let her. That money was never about dollars. It was about dignity, about trust, about doing what's right, even when no one's watching. I lost a family, but I found someone worth everything I gave. In the end, the woman who had the least gave me the most. She never asked for anything. She just loved me, unconditionally. And for the first time in a long time, I finally understood what family really means. Not who shares your blood, but who shows up, every time,